In 1943, the world was locked in a war unlike any other. Cities were burning, nations were collapsing, and millions were dying across Europe and the Pacific. The Allied powers fought desperately to end it, but deep within the United States, far away from any battlefield, something secret was being built, something that even the people working on it did not truly understand. It began in the quiet hills of eastern Tennessee, where farmland and small communities suddenly vanished from maps. The government seized more than 56,000 acres of land under emergency war powers. Entire families were told to pack up and leave, often with only days' notice. They were given little explanation whose dad it was for the war effort within months. Fences and guard towers surrounded the valleys near Knoxville. Soldiers stood at checkpoints, and construction crews arrived in the thousands. Roads were blocked, mail was censored, and a new name appeared on military documents: Clinton Engineer Works. But the people who built and lived there called it something else: Oak Ridge, a city that officially didn't exist. In less than a year, more than 75,000 people lived and worked inside those fences. Oak Ridge had houses, schools, grocery stores, movie theaters, even churches, yet every visitor was screened. Every worker sworn to silence. Armed guards patrolled every street corner. Cameras were forbidden. Letters home were read and blacked out by censors. Even the children were taught never to talk about what their parents did for a living. For most residents, life inside the secret city felt both ordinary and strange. They went to work each morning in huge industrial buildings known only by code numbers K25, I12 and XTIN. They turned dials, recorded readings, and filled out forms without ever being told what it was for. Many thought they were helping to make fuel for ships or aircraft. Others guessed it was some new kind of radar or engine. None of them knew the truth. They were enriching uranium for an atomic bomb. Young women made up much of the workforce. Many were recruited straight from high schools and small towns across the South. At Y12s, they spent long hours in front of panels covered with gauges and switches, carefully keeping needles steady inside narrow ranges. They were told that every tiny adjustment mattered, but nothing more. They obeyed orders without question, proud to be serving their country. Decades later, some would say, "We just wanted to win the war, we didn't need to know how." Meanwhile, deep within guarded laboratories, the world's top scientists worked in secret. Physicists and chemists who once lectured at great universities now lived behind barbed wire. Their task was to turn theoretical science into a weapon of unimaginable power. The government had chosen 3 main sites for the Manhattan Project: Los Alamos in New Mexico, Hanford in Washington, and Oak Ridge in Tennessee. Each played a part in creating a bomb that could end the war and possibly the world. Oak Ridge's job was to separate uranium-235 from natural uranium, a process so complex that even today it seems impossible. Massive factories, some larger than entire city blocks, were filled with miles of piping and magnets. The K25 plant alone stretched half a mile in length, shaped like a giant U. It was one of the largest buildings ever constructed at the time, and it was built in total secrecy. Thousands of workers toiled around the clock, often unaware that their neighbors were working on the same project, but in a different building. Every detail was compartmentalized. Knowledge was a luxury no one could afford. General Leslie Groves, the military head of the Manhattan Project, visited often. So did scientists like Ernest Lawrence and Robert Oppenheimer. To them, Oak Ridge was not just a factory, it was a miracle of organization and human labor. In less than 2 years, this hidden city produced enough enriched uranium to power the bomb known as Little Boy. Outside Oak Ridge, few had any idea the place even existed. There were no signs on the highways, no mention in newspapers. Aerial photographs were classified, and mail addressed simply to people. Box 1, Clinton, Tennessee, somehow reached the right hands. It was said to be the greatest secret ever kept. Inside the city, security was a way of life. Every worker carried an identification badge at all times. Visitors were escorted everywhere. Rumors spread quickly, but no one dared to ask questions. The penalties for curiosity were severe instant dismissal and sometimes arrest. Posters warned, loose lips might sink ships. Everyone believed it. And yet, Despite the secrecy, Oak Ridge had a strange sense of community. People married, raised children, and attended dances at the recreation halls. Theaters showed newsreels about battles overseas. Everyone shared the same feeling they were part of something big, something that might change the course of the war. They just didn't know how. Then, on the morning of August 6, 1945, the secret was revealed. Newspapers across the country carried the same headline: "Atomic bomb dropped on Japan." A single bomb, powered by uranium refined in Oak Ridge, had destroyed the city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, a second bomb fell on Nagasaki. The war that had consumed the world for 6 long years was suddenly, brutally, over. For the people of Oak Ridge, the news was a shock. Many celebrated, believing their work had helped end the bloodshed. Others felt something more complicated, a mix of pride, confusion, and guilt. They realized that the humming machines they had watched for years had helped unleash a force of destruction unlike anything humanity had ever seen. For some, it was too much to bear. After Japan surrendered, the fences around Oak Ridge slowly came down. The city that had been hidden from the world began to open its gates. Families who had lived in secrecy could finally tell their stories. Scientists and engineers returned home, forever changed by what they had built. Some went on to advocate for nuclear peace. Others continued their work in atomic research, believing that knowledge itself was neither good nor evil. It was only what people did with it that mattered. Oak Ridge became a symbol of both triumph and warning. It showed what human ingenuity could accomplish under pressure, but it also revealed the dangers of secrecy and power. The city continued to operate as a research center for decades,